Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's a wonderful day today, and it's good to be back here to talk about another wonderful topic. Today, we'll be looking at a very sensitive topic that a lot of people are not comfortable talking about, and is a fast, is an increasing growing trend. But unfortunately, a lot of parents are not even aware, and even the ones that are probably too ashamed to talk about it. Today we'll be looking at sibling incest. I decided to do this video because during the week I was involved in a case that involved siblings supposedly or allegedly having sex with themselves, because we have not been able to prove it. It was just the siblings themselves that kept on going. It was just a story of a case of a boy, in his innocence. He told his friends what was going on in his house between him and his older siblings. The older sister actually doesn't stay in the house, so she comes, and one thing led to another. According to him, it was she was having sex with the younger brother. He caught them, and then she got them involved, and all of that and all of that and all of that. I really cannot say too much about that. Incest happens a lot. It's not something new. But then again, when we hear incest, we are quick to just taking it from the angle of father and daughter, uncle and niece, and in very rare cases mother and son. And people really don't talk much about incest that occurs between brother and sister. Sibling incest is when a brother and a sister have sex with themselves, and unfortunately this thing happens more often than it is being recorded, more often than people talk about it. I think the reason is because in families where such occur, they are actually too ashamed to talk about it. I remember some time ago I was talking with a nurse. She works in one of these big hospitals in Lagos, and she was telling me that there's an alarming rate of parents that bring their daughters for abortion, and when they try to discourage the mother, the parent will just tell you, this child cannot have this child, she can't keep this pregnancy, she's pregnant for her brother, she's pregnant for her cousin, and all sort of unpleasant stories that we hear. But then again, to a very large extent, sibling incest can be avoided. As with every other negative thing that happens with our children, they can very well be avoided. We as parents just need to up our games. We just need to be knowledgeable. We just need to be intentional about making sure that we know these things and we put a stop to it before it happens. So very quickly, I'll be sharing factors that enable sibling incest to happen more rampantly in the house. Number one is parental neglect. It's one thing for you as a parent to be physically present. It's another thing for you to be emotionally available for your children. You find out that in homes where the parents are just there, they are not, they're just there, like just their physical presence, just provide financially and all that. They are not emotionally present and emotionally available for the children. You find out that the children begin to seek solace. They begin to seek solace in other people, and unfortunately they really cannot get it outside. Then they begin to turn to themselves for their emotional needs. They begin to turn to themselves to seek solace, especially in homes where there's usually violence. You understand, the parents are always fighting with themselves, there's no peace in the house, and the children are the ones bearing the brunt psychologically. They begin to turn to themselves, they begin to console themselves, and before you know, one thing begins to lead to another, and that is where incest begins. There's actually a case very close to me here. Two teenagers, sibling, brother and sister. The girl is actually pregnant now. The mother is so ashamed. So ashamed. There's actually nothing she can do. You understand? Because like the story goes, she probably wasn't emotionally present for the children. She always has to go out, she always has to work, and so on and so on and so on. You know, very, very shameful story. I feel so bad for the mother anyway, but unfortunately, the mother is pregnant, and there's like actually the daughter rather is pregnant. There's actually nothing anybody can do, and the mother has decided to just leave her. She's going to carry the pregnancy to term. She's going to birth the child. The child is going to be her child and her niece or her nephew. The child is going to, I don't know, it's a very unpleasant situation. Also, we look at when parents do their sexual business in the presence of children. There are parents that are so careless. We hear a lot of things in the classroom. My mommy and my daddy now did. My mommy and my daddy now did. When older siblings or adults around, you're so careless. You're having sex. You're not you're not discreet about it. You know, children have very, very wild and very active imagination. Whatever they see, they always want to practice. Some parents are so careless that, especially for the ones that are not so financially privileged, they probably share a room with their children. You know, they just go about their sexual business. They are not careful about it. They just, you know, and the children see these things and they want to learn, they want to practice everything they see. These are factors that make children build interest, and then they begin to practice with themselves. They may not even want to go as far as, okay, let me test with my friend, their sister is there. And you know, in their innocence, they don't even think it that this is something bad. They just see mommy and daddy do it, and they assume that it is normal, and then they begin to practice it. And before you know it, they get so comfortable, and it becomes normal. You see siblings having sex, 2, 3, 4, 5. I read a case of a guy that said he's been having sex with his sister for 17 years. They started when they were kids. You know, when they start this thing, sometimes it's very difficult for them to stop. So as parents, as adults, we have to be very careful the way we go about our sexual businesses, especially when children are around. We have to try as much as possible to protect their innocence. We have to try as much as possible to be as discreet as much as we can. Also, another factor that could do that is parents displaying nudity in the presence of their children. There was this social media story that trended about this little boy. I think he was caught raping in a rape case or something like that. You know, he always wants to have sex with every girl around. He doesn't care whether it's his sister, it's his classmate. All he thinks about is sex, sex, sex. And eventually, you know, they had to get a counselor to talk to him. And the first thing he said, my mother caused it. She's always walking around the house, butt naked, stark naked, the way she was created. I wonder what your motive will be as a parent to be walking all over the house naked. I don't understand. If you so miss the Garden of Eden, you can go somewhere else and create something like that for yourself. Protect the innocence of your children. Why will you strip yourself naked? The weather is too hot, and then you begin to. It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. It's wrong. You are being unfair to the child, having to always constantly display your nudity. You are giving children ideas. They shouldn't be seeing you in that state. As much as possible, cover yourself. If you must go stark naked, do it in your bedroom. Close the door. But as much as possible, protect the innocence of those children. Protect the innocence of these children. Then one point I would like to lay emphasis on is the increasing rise in incest pornography. Parents, please be aware. There's an increasing rise in incest pornography. It's porn where the storyline is a brother having sex with his sister, a mother finding her son sexually attractive and is looking for ways to get laid by her son, a father that is having sex with his daughters, a father having threesome with 2 of his daughters, all sorts of dirty storyline, and it is fast increasing. Incest porn actually gained popularity, I think, from 2017, and it's fast increasing. You hear a lot of teenagers talk about these things, and unfortunately the internet is just there. Anybody can have access to anything. Children have access to all sort of content online. So now there's access to them having, it's just one click. you know. And when they begin to discuss among themselves, they begin to encourage themselves why they should get involved. And you know, for some children who are not so assertive, for some children who are not so confident, that are easily influenced, you know, it's something their friends are doing, they just want to try it and all that. And there's one thing with children: once they see a lot of their friends do it, they begin to see it as normal. They begin to see it as something they want to partake in, so that they can feel among. So as much as possible, we need to be very aware of the kind of things, the kind of content that our children are getting involved in right now. Another risk factor, another enabling factor for siblings incest is absent father, non-available mother. The father is absent, the mother is not really, probably because they have to work, or probably because the marriage didn't work, they have to separate, they have to go their separate ways, and one parent now gains custody of the children. So one of the parents is not fully available, the other parent has to, you know, go about their regular businesses. Then they transfer power of parenthood to probably one of the older siblings. Now, if that older sibling doesn't have the fear of God, if that older sibling is the type that is easily influenced, if he's the type that just wants to experiment with all sort of things, then there's this cause for worry. I don't want to use the word alarm. We need to be careful with the way we leave our children, with who we leave our children with generally. We need to be careful with the way we leave our children together with themselves. You know, we need to be careful as much as possible. We just, as parents, we just have to find a way around it to make sure that we are available. And even if we don't have to spend all the time, we make sure that the little time we have is quality time, where we instill the right kind of values in our children. Now we look at, like I said, incest is something that can very well be avoided. Yes, the very first thing to know about avoiding incest is to be aware and to accept the fact. A lot of people lie to themselves, and they tell themselves, oh, God forbid, such things cannot happen to me. I say amen to that story. But then again, what are you doing to ensure that such things do not happen in your family? Number one is to be aware and to accept the fact that these things happen. Your awareness alone, your acceptance of that fact, then makes you intentional about making sure that you begin to do things to ensure that it doesn't happen in your home. Number one is to be available. Like I said, be as much as possible. Try to spend quality time with your children. Talk to them. Instill the right values in them. Build friendship. Make sure that your children can come to you to talk about anything, so that when a brother is telling the sister, come, let me kiss you, she's coming straight to you to tell you, mommy, look at what this person is telling me. Have that kind of relationship with your children, especially when they are very young. You know, when they are very young, it's a lot easier to build that kind of friendship. Have that kind of relationship even with your teenagers. At any point, there's never a wrong time. You can start doing the right thing at any point in time, no matter how stringent your relationship is. You don't have a very flexible, a very good relationship with your teenager. You can begin to build a good relationship at any point in time. As parents, they are your children. You know them, you know their strengths, you know their weaknesses. If it takes you apologizing to them for the times that you have not really been the perfect, the wonderful parent that they've expected, if it takes you apologizing to them, come down to their level, apologize to them, and begin to build that friendship as much as you can. Then also be emotionally and physically available for your children. Be a parent that your children can readily come to with any kind of challenges, any kind of problems. And then another thing we should pay another thing. Yeah, like I said, know the kind of friends, the homes that these friends come from, the values that their families hold on to. Because some families really don't care. Anything goes. I had a friend that the father would tell them, you can have boyfriends. She was just 13 when she was telling me this. You can have boyfriends, you can have sex, but please don't get pregnant. If you get pregnant, make sure you terminate, you know, all sort of negative things, all sort of, in fact, things that shouldn't be heard of. Families have different kind of values. You really cannot blame them. That is how they have chosen to run their own family. So it is you who knows what you want for your children. You know how best to protect them. And as much as possible, as soon as you notice your children are hanging out with such people, as much as possible, try make sure you do everything to put an end to that friendship. Then last but not least, pray for your children. Because as much as people will say you cannot prove these things, sometimes these things are beyond physical. They are even beyond the control of the children. You know, they just find themselves doing things that ordinary. As much as possible, pray and pray for children. Parenting is physical, is spiritual, is psychological. Parenting is all encompassing. Pray for your children, pray with your